Well, well, well. I don't think I want to know what Randy Pitchford has in common with Yuri and Marathon or anything like that. The possibilities absolutely horrify me because I was foolish enough to read the article that went into specifics on what was found on the flash drive that he left at the fucking Ren Fair or whatever it was. God, what? Randy Pitchford sucks so bad. But we're going to be talking about him this week. We're going to be talking about some news in regards to Marathon and whether or not Sony is still behind them. We'll be talking about AI usage in the anime industry, and then we'll also be discussing Serena's pick of the week, which is apparently kind of gay.
Ooh. But it's a good kind of gay. And we're in Pride Month, so it's appropriate.
The big gay?
I'll let people debate that in the comments. Jesus. All right. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of On the Grind. All right. So the review that we have this week is from Serena. And she has apparently played a game called Little Goody Two Shoes. Serena, the floor is yours.
Yes, Little Goody Two Shoes is a game developed by a indie studio called Astral Shift Pro and published by Square Enix on the PC and Switch. I played it on Switch. So the game is a horror RPG maker type game. We play as a young girl by the name of Elise, who attempts to avoid horrific monsters in enchanted woods while searching for a way to escape her mundane life. This game is a prequel to the 2016 RPG Maker game Pocket Mirror. Pocket Mirror is also another RPG where you play as an amnesiac girl in like a twisted fairy tale land. And you must find a way to get back home. Now, the character you're seeing is the main character, Elise. Elise's entire deal is that she feels ostracized from the village because no one appreciates all the work she does. She's something called a maid of work, which is basically someone who just does what little odd jobs here or there, whatever is available to them. We are presented with 3 love interests that I put in the podcast talk. The first girl, the girl in green, her name is Freya. She is the lovable sweetheart. Two of these girls, the green girl and the nun, are childhood friends of Elise. The second girl her name is Lebukin, the nun who helps Father Hans in the church. And then you have the third girl who is someone who arrives in the village of Kieferberg, whose name is Rosmarin. So you got Freya, Lebukin, and Rosmarin, who are all 3 love interests for Elise. Now, the canon love interest, for what I know, is Rosmarin. But I decided to do the other 2 girls. The first love interest route I did was Freya. Freya, I could best describe is like, she's kind of like Tifa, but she's very milquetoast. She doesn't really have a lot of interesting points other than she's very nice and she cares about people. Yeah, my favorite love interest route has to be the nun, the Lebukin, because Lebukin has a lot of bite to her. The first event, she was also the first love interest whose love meter I maxed out. I didn't max out Freya's because I had missed a love event. I haven't gotten to Rosmarin's route yet. But I did both the endings for the bad ending and the good ending for Freya and Lebukin. Lebukin is basically an overworked nun who feels like chained to her duties, and you learn over the course of the game that she's kind of starting to lose faith, lose faith in her own belief, and also faith in the village, because over the course of a week, strange things starts to happen around the village of Kieferborg, ranging from crows showing up to the fountain, the public fountain being clogged with black snakes. Now, this game deals with the concept of the deal with the devil. Do you pursue love despite a bad situation and try to make it work? Or do you sacrifice that love for the sake of worldly fortune, but you feel empty inside? Those are usually how most of the endings with all three of the romantic routes kind of go. Out of all three of the routes, I would say Levikin is the most tragic, because Levikin seems to be the closest to Elise. She's constantly like cracking jokes. She's constantly giving her as much as she can take. She's giving like trading barbs with each other, but like friendly type of barbs. You don't really get that with Freya, because Freya's just like endlessly supportive, and she'll just like support you in everything you know. I haven't gotten to Rosemary, but Rosemary's kind of a bit of an airhead who's very obsessed with fate, and yeah, she's very obsessed with fate, but she kind of she does play a role in helping Elise get the testaments. Now, the testaments are objects that are objects that you can use to offer to the demon whose name is Ozzy. And Ozzy is the one who contacts Elise by giving her the classical as the titular little red shoes, hence the title Little Goody Two Shoes, as kind of like a way to entice Elise.
I have a quick question. Does Ozzy come into any scenario going, Sharon? Sharon! Serena didn't
Oh, it's one
right
of those
over
bloody
her.
baylets again. Sharon! Those God hand tosses! Want me making the deals?
Oh, God. So the game takes place over the course of 1 week. So you have 1 week until the festival, the spring festival, to make your deal with Ozzy. So over the course of the week, you have to do these events called as well as the game starts with you the morning when you're doing like odd jobs or doing the love events. But at night, you have to do something called the witching hour, which are where the main meat of the game is. You have to solve puzzles and pass the trials of Ozzy's demonic servants. Owo was the golden crow. Then you have Aziel, who is the serpent. Out of all of the levels in the game, Owo's section, which is like a golden wheat field, because he's a crow, was the most difficult. Like, holy shit, one of the aspects of the game I did not like was the puzzles. Because the puzzles are very unforgiving and very vague in what they want you to do. Now, the golden wheat field witching hour, one of the things I did not like was the fact that there's a puzzle when you first go into that section of the game. You have to avoid being pecked by these giant crows who are in these trees. So when the trees are moving around, you should not go into those trees, or else you're going to get help. Like, you're going to like lose health. Now, this is where the game gets a bit bullshit. When I was playing this game, I went to the tree that wasn't moving, because that was the safe tree. Because the game even says, go to the tree that's not moving. And I'm like, okay. I went to the tree that wasn't moving. A second later, I get fucking pecked. So I'm like, what the fuck?
You got tricked.
Yeah, I hate that type of shit. You tell me to do this one thing, and then you end up killing me and punishing me for it. And that's the problem for a lot of this game's puzzles, is that it expects you to know. It's not new player friendly. It expects you to know the answer without actually giving you a clear hint. Another puzzle that gave me trouble was, it was still in the wheat field, was also the puzzle in which you have to guide a child that has gone missing in the village. You have to guide them out of the wheat field dimension. This one was difficult because you're both chained, meaning that the kid is under some sort of spell to where he's mimicking Elise's movements. So if you move a certain way, he'll move that way. The problem comes when you have to guide him out of the field of spikes.
Oh.
Cannot determine the distance of the spikes or how close the spikes are to my character, because this is a 2D game. So you can't really tell how close they are, and you end up unknowingly taking damage. That's what I mean by like bullshit game design. That section, you have to guide the kid out of the spiky maze, but the problem is I don't know how close these spikes are to me and the kid. So he ends up dying, or I end up dying on accident. So I had to cut throughout the witching hour events. I had to like resort to walkthroughs on YouTube because I had no idea how to get past some of the sections.
Mm-hmm.
And the game wasn't being charitable. Another puzzle is the puzzle that's in the water mirror dimension. Elise has to evade. You have to evade ghosts who only attack you if you're not on a platform. So if you're walking around in the on the water, they will attack you immediately. The problem here is that Elise moves at a snail's pace, but the enemies move faster than her. One of the biggest fucking frustrations was the demon horse chase. I am literally you have to run away from this giant demon horse while spikes and other objects are falling on top of you. The problem is, as I said with the maze section, you can't determine how close these objects are to you. And because Elise moves so slow, it takes a good minute for her to evade. So the game expects you to know the pattern of these spikes. You can see how this can get frustrating if you're a new player. So once I got all the tests, by the way, before you, after you finish the witching hour, you'll get a testament at the end. Now, you have to do a mini game that's based on the mini game that's basically a twisted, demonic version of the mini games that you usually do around the village in the morning and afternoon. Let's say you're chopping wood. You literally have to, in the witching hour mini game, you literally have to, I forgot what you had to do, the chopping wood one. Oh yes, you had to basically bake your own hair with wheat in it as a demonic crow is throwing human organs at you. And you have to pick the organs away so it doesn't like interfere with you baking your hair into bread so you can offer the demon Ozzy.
Sounds like a good time.
Another mini game is you picking apples around town to help with the villagers. The witching hour version of that is basically you have to collect blood, your own blood, that from like a twisted doll giant, and tears from it. So once you filled up the testament, that is basically just a bowl, it'll present you here. You got the testament of the sweetest nectar. So Rosmarine, sorry if I'm going around. I'm going all over the place. Rosmarine, the girl in purple, basically tells you have to collect 3 testaments to offer to him. The first testament was the sweetest. Oh, fuck, I forgot what it was. Was the sweetest nectar, the good company, and something else. It had to do with flesh. Like, it had to do with fuck. Sorry, I can't remember what the other testament was, but you have to collect them by the end of the week in order to offer, the tender flesh, the sweetest nectar, and the good company. The good company is basically your whatever love interest you choose to sacrifice. The game makes it very tedious to get these objects because you have to do these difficult puzzles that are just not fun. Plus, because of the 2D style of the game, I found myself getting caught on the environment, getting stuck in the environment a lot of the time because I couldn't determine how close I was to a certain object. And when I looked up the walkthrough, even other people were having difficulties with certain puzzles. Some of the Hololive and Niji Sanji girls who played this game were also having difficulties too. And we're saying the same things I'm saying now. The puzzles are not clear enough. They're not charitable enough with a first-time player. You can't expect a first-time to know how to evade an enemy or how to find this or that object just from like a vague slab on a stone.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You played a game about making a deal with demons for personal gain. That may or may not have Faustian implications. We don't know yet. Where you're also required to go and deal with this. Well, I'm getting there. Jamie pulled this up. So, so with potential Faustian implications, meanwhile, you're being sent in to deal with supernatural forces in the woods. I guess perhaps at the behest of these demons, and the demons are cheating. They're lying to you so that they can take your soul without giving you anything.
I mean, Ozzy does live up to his end of the bargain,
but only after significant amounts of bullshit.
Yeah, but you end up becoming something called a golden girl. The golden girls are basically his previous patrons.
So you become an apostle.
Yeah, it's either his previous patrons as well as their sacrifices. So you learn from these previous girls that you learn about their regrets when they're scattered throughout the entire village and around the witching hours sections. You have to find them, but over the course of the game, you learn that some of these girls deeply regret what they did, or they failed to follow through. One of the endings of the game has, I call it a pseudo ending because it's more of a game over. During the final portion of the game, once you get to Ozzy's realm, once you acquire all the 3 testaments, you get to Ozzy's realm, and you have the choice to either stop Ozzy from killing your love interest, but doing so, he ends up killing you. You basically become a golden girl. So Elise has to watch whoever she romances die in front of her if she wants to fulfill her wish of riches. Now, another aspect of this game is the suspicion meter. Because this is a very superstitious town in the 16th century. If you've seen the Crucible, the whole witch hunts scare is kind of happening with this town, and because of the strange events involving Elise's deal and her trials with Ozzy and his demon associates, strange things start to happen in this village. So people start suspecting a witch. Now, if your suspicion meter gets too high, they'll suspect you of being the witch, and you end up dying.
As is only just.
I wouldn't call it just.
Well, I mean, you're making a deal with the devil here, and it's resulting in complications.
Another thing is that there's also another figure called Valpurga, who is the quote-unquote saint of Keitherburg. But you learn that there's more to this than just Ozzy and his demonic faction. There's something else at play here. Because this old woman, which we assume to be the witch, is constantly stalking Elise throughout the entire game. And she's interested in she keeps referring to Elise as her daughter, and you end up learning in one of the endings that Ozzy used a part of this being to make Elise so her grandma could have a child. Grandma Holly is dead by the beginning of the game, but you learn that she was one of his previous patrons, and that technically the old woman is actually the I think they don't explain what she is, but I think she's some type of supernatural being. So over the course, you have to this game requires you to manage your resources carefully. So you have to decide what you want to do that day, whether you want to spend time with your love interests or do jobs around the village to earn money. The game really hammers home the fact that Elise is very poor and has to struggle day to day. So you begin to understand from her perspective why she would make this deal.
Shit just sucks in her area then.
Yeah, the entire village just sucks because the people are. Yeah, the Saint Valperga or the old hag, as she called, is the patroness that the people of Keeperburg worship. She's also the one who informs Elise of the 3 gifts required to meet him. So there's some rivalry between Valperga. If you name reminds you of something, Valperga's knocked from Madoka Magica.
Man, that's the.
So it's reinforcing that the whole witch theme.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to German mythology where Walpurgis Nacht was the basically the witch's night, if I remember correctly. There's probably a good chance I don't.
Yeah, so over the course of the game, you have to evade suspicion and make it to the festival, the spring festival, to make your final decision. As I chose Freya as my first love interest because a lot of people are saying like Freya is one of the best ones. She's all right, but I still think Lebukin's the best. Freya, during the love events, you're getting to discuss with Freya about what she wants to do in the future. What's her dreams? Does she want to stay in Kieferberg or does she want to pursue her dreams? And she's constantly praising and encouraging Elise. And even defends Elise during the town accusing her. Because there's a point in the game where there's several points in the game where you have to get there are events where you can either raise your suspicion or you can either lower it by certain dialogue events. Now, the dialogue in this game, the dialogue options tend to be very vague because it's not clear which is the good option, which is the bad option. So that's kind of another issue I had with this game, which is how vague, because there are plenty of points where I fucked up the love events because I couldn't tell which one's the good event that will increase Freya's affinity with me. And I had to restart this game. You have to save a lot in this game because you will die a lot and you will mess up a lot.
So it's very 90s. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just find that a bit annoying. So the first girl that I had maxed out love meter was Lebukin, the nun. Lebukin's route is basically her wanting to you have to encourage her to start putting herself first, because at the point where she gets sick and you have to take care of her, but she still wants to help the villagers because she feels bound by duty to do so. She works with the village priest, Father Hans. And Father Hans is probably, at first, he appears like the most sensible individual. He's constantly beating back old Johannes, the village, one of the village elders, accusations of a witch is causing all this mayhem. But it's very clear that Elise is kind of the one responsible because of her deal and because of the witching hour events. She starts to see and hear things that aren't really there, which can increase your suspicion if you're not careful. Now, for the routes the endings where you don't pursue Ozzy's deal, and you prioritize your feelings for your love interest over worldly riches, Elise always ends up leaving the village with her designated love interest, either to explore the world or to pursue their personal goals together. Lebukin's good ending has her basically leave with you to go to like other villages around the area, and then when they come, and then after a certain period of time they come back. Elise ends up being appointed the village elder, not the village elder. She like the Leb becomes the village elder. Elise becomes the mayor. So they're just running. They come back to Kieferberg together. In the bad route, in the sacrifice routes, Elise gets what she wants. She ends up living in this because throughout the game, Ozzy is constantly tempting you with this white castle, basically representing Elise's desire to leave the village and pursue her worldly goals. Elise gets what she wants at the cost of her love interest. Because she's at this point, she's fucking. She pretends that she didn't know that this was going to lead to her losing her love interest. But come the fuck on, Elise. Everyone and their mother was telling you what was going to happen. Like, what do you think these gifts were for?
Yeah, it's getting a little bit too much of like the argument being, but he's the devil. Yeah, but he's such a nice guy. But he's the devil.
It's more he wants to play innocent. But I'm like, you're getting these random. You're offering this being pieces of yourself, and you have these weird supernatural trials at night, and all these weird things in your village. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking like, there's actually a band following her playing The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and she's still not getting the hint. It's kind of what the impression I'm getting here.
Yeah, like, I didn't like how she didn't like pick up on what she was doing. It kind of made me not feel bad. I feel bad for the love interest more so than Elise, because the love interest generally does not know what the fuck is going on, except Rosamarin, who you later learn that Rosemary's origins is that her mother was burnt at the stake for being accused of being a witch, and she was taken in by her grandmother, and they just basically were just nomads the entire time. She ends up losing her grandmother and then ending up in Kieferberg with Elise. She was basically being guided by the stars. She's a big believer in fate. So she's the one that kind of kicks off, that kind of like pushes Elise into making this deal, because she believes that this is fate. Also, you have this weird little goat called Flock, who basically you learn is actually Ozzy. So Ozzy the demon is literally grooming and goading Rosemarie, because Rosemarie is the canon love interest / sacrifice, because her route ties into the game Pocket Mirror. So he's basically been grooming and pushing this girl into basically accepting herself as a sacrifice unwittingly. During the sacrifice scene, because I seen someone do it on YouTube. I see the VTuber played Rosamarine's route on YouTube. Rosamarine is kind of tragic because she generally does not know that she's being like tricked or being groomed into being a sacrifice. And during the scene where she's being eaten and consumed by Ozzy, she's calling out to her grandmother. She is genuinely scared.
God damn. Well, we've been going over this for about 30 minutes now. Like, would you recommend this game to people, Serena?
I give the game a 7 out of 10, but for first timers, you're going to have to rely a lot on YouTube walkthroughs for some of these puzzles. I would say play with caution, because the puzzles are fucking frustrating as hell. And don't be surprised if you're going to get acquainted with the loading screen. Also, Astral Shift Pro, they're doing another game called Hell Meeting, which is basically I forgot what you call that type of gameplay. It's like Vampire Survivor. It's basically Vampire Survivor, but based on Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. You're playing as a girl version of Dante who travels to hell. It basically is a Yuri version of Dante Alighieri's Inferno and Divine Comedy.
The Yuri version is every circle just lust.
Basically, all the characters that were male in the stop it, Micah. Basically,
Why?
all the characters were male. Stop doing that. All the characters that were male are now females. Dante, Virgil, Minos, and a couple of others. Beatrice. Well, Beatrice was already filled, but all the male characters are now been cute anime girls.
Doing cute anime things. Well, learning about each other and themselves through their travel through the circles of hell. And hopefully they get to see a fucking three-headed dog and throw some mud at it for it to chomp down on something, you know. Or the one part where the Pope was tortured upside down by their feet with burning sparks applied to them. That was a ridiculous part in the poem, actually. There's so many fucking weird things.
Pocket Mirror is a bit easier than Little Goody Two Shoes because Pocket Mirror follows Elise's daughter Goldia as she must escape. Basically, one of the deals that Ozzy makes with Elise was her second born child and Elise's soul. But Elise basically says he originally said firstborn, but Elise changes to secondborn because she didn't intend to like have kids originally. But she gets when Ozzy offers her the carriage and the castle, a male noble basically says, "I want to invite you to my castle." She ends up marrying the noble and having twins, a boy and a girl. And you're following the girl's adventure and her trying to find her way out of this deal or try to save herself in Pocket Mirror. Elise gets the Pocket Mirror that will act as the object that will help save her daughter's soul.
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of a complex look into this dark morality system, and I mean, you got what everybody loves. Everybody loves Yuri, and
one ending, Elise. The ending that's where you sacrifice the nun Lebukin has Elise basically become a nun in a internal state of seeking forgiveness. At the end of the ending, Lebukin appears to Elise having forgive her because during the sacrifice scene with Lebukin, when she's being consumed by Ozzy, she's basically constantly cursing Elise that Elise betrayed her, screaming out for help. Basically, it's just each girl has a different reaction, but with Lebukin, hers is like anger at the fact that the person she fell in love with literally betrayed her and gave her up to the devil. Which honestly, I would have preferred if Lebukin was the one that was the canonical love interest, because it's just such delicious irony that the nun ends up being screwed over by her own partner. It's kind of fucked up irony there.
Indeed. Well, folks, you got Serena's recommendation. We're going to go and move on to the next topic.
Sorry.
So Randy Pitchford. Randy Pitchford did a dumb.
Big old dumb.
I'm trying to find the exact quote here. Let's see here. So Randy Pitchford was approached on the Twitter because Borderlands 4 was announced, and it's apparently going to cost $80 fucking dollars.
That's American.
Yeah. And in response to a question about it, Randy Pitchford tries to be relatable. Trying to find the full tweet. Here's what he said. He said, "Not my call. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage in an ice cream parlor in Prismo Beach. And I found a way to make it happen."
Lovely.
Which, here's the thing, folks. On the Twitter, your ability to inflict any sort of tone to what you're saying is going to go out the fucking window. Because the way that reads is, "Hey, get a job, you poor." At least that's the way to do it if you're not going to give it any grace, admittedly. Now, Mike, Xavier, would you guys, because I know Rena is Babby, would you like to explain the lore of Randy Pitchford and why people do not like her? Or people don't like... No.
Wait,
I'm assuming something about Randy Pitchford here that I probably shouldn't be assuming.
Yeah, we are not dropping that scoop.
People, we have to be the LGBTs. Bad Micah.
Well,
if there's
Randy
a month
Pitchford,
to come out, it's this month.
There's a couple things that Randy Pitchford really likes. One of those things is medieval times. The other things is quote-unquote magic shows.
Oh my god. Oh.
Oh, no. I fucking love it. It's so great.
It's such a oh my god. So your boy, he lost a USB stick at a Ren Fair, I believe it was. And
It was in medieval times.
it was in medieval times, yeah. And a teenage boy found it, I think, and looked on it and found that there was some very barely legal porn on there. But Randy Pitchford claimed that his only interest in it was because he is a magician, and the way the performer made I believe it was a dildo disappear, was tantamount to being a magic trick. And he paid the kid that found it, I think, a fair amount for its retrieval.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of confidential Gearbox documents and information also on that USB.
Supposedly. It's he's a very awkward man. Very, very, very fucking awkward man. Holy shit. God.
Yeah. So this particular instance, it did him no favors after the years upon years of this and him just putting his foot in his fucking mouth all the time, and just... There's also a lot of people that don't like him because he has flat out confessed to sitting on the Duke Nukem IP at this point, because he knows that releasing a new Duke Nukem would get him lambasted by certain people with certain politics on Twitter. And he might as well just make games for them at this point.
Mm-hmm. It's his IP to sit on and do nothing with.
Pretty much. So, effectively, this came off as incredibly insensitive to kind of like where prices are at with video games right now. And he walked it back. He apologized. According to him, that's not what he meant to communicate. But I will say this. I do believe that it was not his call. because there have been people from Take-Two Interactive that have said stuff like the possibility that GTA 6 might be $100.
Which is absurd.
Yeah. So, I think that it's sort of like brought up a broader conversation, though. At least in regards to the world of video game pricing. Because it goes without saying that video games are getting really, really fucking expensive. And a lot of what we're hearing from a lot of studios is that spending is out of control. They're effectively investing a ton of money into, advertising that really isn't necessary, and it isn't really bringing in more money. They're investing a lot of money into extra departments that don't actually do anything. They are contracting out to other companies for consultation work when they don't really need it. I hate to bring up the ghost of Sweet Baby Inc. I'm not going to go too in depth on them, but one thing that they did do was, I believe that Sweet Baby got called to help, quote unquote, with Homeworld 3, which I don't know if people have seen parts of that story. Homeworld 3, somebody had a giantess fetish with that game, and they just it's so bad. It's so bad. The writing is so stupid. But regardless, they have all of that, and it wasn't necessary. It wasn't needed. People got the hint from little hints that were put into the game's manual that the developers really didn't want all these people there. They weren't really necessary, etc., etc. So, when it comes right down to it, Gearbox Studios has become one of the most infamous studios in the whole of video gaming. They are effectively propped up by the Borderlands franchise. And even then, if I remember right, didn't Borderlands 3 flop?
Effectively.
Yeah, Borderlands movie was really bad. And,
Yeah, there's that too.
My brother, who is like the target demographic for the Borderlands franchise for the most part, he did not care for like Borderlands 3 like at all, or the pre-sequel. So I think that that's important. Even if it did sell numbers, it's not as it doesn't stand up as well as the other games. At least according to him, I've only played Borderlands 2 a little bit, and it wasn't for me.
I love Borderlands 2. It was fantastic, but I think that most of that was just Handsome Jack, which reportedly caused Anthony Birch, the lead writer, to just get fucking turbo-chapped over the fact that it turns out that Handsome Jack's voice actor just ad-libbed most of everything everyone found funny.
Yeah. Now there's a fucking story to tell.
Oh yeah, Reno doesn't know who Anthony Birch is either.
I know who his sister is.
Gather round, children. We're going to tell you the legend of Anthony Birch.
Funny enough, I always imagine Althea sounding very similar to Chloe from Life is Strange. Just putting that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Continue.
Well, a big fault of the Borderlands movie was that they weren't trying to make a Borderlands movie. They were trying to make a movie with as many celebrities as they possibly could, and somehow squeeze them into this property. It wasn't about making
where none of the castings made any fucking sense. What was it, Helen Mirren for the redheaded lady?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, there we go. Oh, God. seems like they just got everybody that wanted like an extra like $1 million or so.
Yeah. Who wants to eat? Raise your hand.
Yeah. I want to say that it was Michael Caine that said this, or someone said this about Michael Caine. I think like he had a conversation with one of his kids, because obviously Michael Caine's been in a lot of great films, and it's sort of a British actor sentiment is that you'll notice with a lot of like the big name British actors is that they have done. There's a lot of them out there that have done some tremendous films, right? But then you'll look at their filmography, and they have done some real stinkers too. And apparently, one of Michael Caine's kids, I don't know if this is true or not, asked him, you know, you've done all these phenomenal films, but then you have this one and this movie sucked. What did you get out of it? And Michael Caine looks around and he goes, "Well, it paid for this house." It's just sort of like the British attitude of, it's a living.
What a brutal way to earn it, though.
Yeah. I have a feeling like that's kind of like Liam Neeson's attitude as well. Because Liam Neeson's like, he got his Oscar. You know, like, how old was he when Schindler's List came out? Like in his 30s?
That was fucking... He's what, 60 now?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so 93? 30 years ago. Fuck, so yeah, 30s.
Yeah. So like he like relatively he won his first Oscar relatively young. At that point, like when it comes to accolades within the world of acting, where else do you go? At that point, you just make some fucking money. So, yeah, that's how I would explain the casting. It's like it must have paid well. But yeah. Regardless, though, like this is like we're in this situation where a lot of people really feel like they're not really getting bang for their buck in regards to video games. Live service is fucking everywhere. People are getting sick of it. And, you know, like, you've got games that it's very rare where you feel like the money that you pay for them, you're really getting your dollars out of it.
And if you don't feel like you want to buy it, they start calling you anti-fans and other bullshit like that. It's very tiresome.
Incredibly. So, I'm honestly of the opinion that the industry really needs to take a look around and just seriously ask itself what they're doing wrong. Because if you think of like a game like Expedition 33, which came out and it's effectively taking the world by storm. And it only costs $50 to play, and it's available on Games Pass. Like, you look at that and you go, man, like, what the fuck? Yeah, what happened? And like another good example is Doom: The Dark Ages, which I obviously very much enjoyed, but I didn't buy it. I just played it on Games Pass because that's the cheaper option. Because like it's a $70 game. And even then, $70 for 8 hours worth of content, to some people that's not enough. I'd say the last game that I bought that I've definitely gotten my bang for my buck on was Space Marine 2, because I have played that game for hundreds of hours because it has, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying gameplay loops that you'll ever play.
Go in, murder shit, and then
exactly.
The fact that it's easier or more preferred to play something on Game Pass rather than go out and buy it has been something that's been going on a lot lately with really big name titles. and it's definitely causing them to underperform. Because Halo Infinity or Halo Infinite, most everyone played it on Game Pass. Nobody bought it. Like I think some people bought it but for the most part, everyone got it on Game Pass, and as a result, the game kind of underperformed.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely going to contribute to the incoming gaming crash, which, as we all know, is either is about to start or has already happened. We're just waiting on the dominoes to finish falling.
Which is unfortunate, but I mean, I want to say like the best era of gaming happened right after the first one. That's where Nintendo got its foot in the door and basically took over American like the gaming identity from basically everyone that let it go to hell.
Well, with the rise of the double A indies, the independent games that have budgets and are doing well with 30 people teams, what the gaming industry becomes after we get rid of all the crap, definitely looks promising, especially with people being more interested in doing what is retro to them, and we're getting a lot of PlayStation era games coming out right now.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. There's one that reminded me of goodness, damn it, it's on the tip of my tongue. A lot of PlayStation 1 like RPGs, like those really, really long and epic ones. Bravely Default.
We're also getting a lot of action games too. Like I saw this game that reminded me of Nightmare Creatures.
Fuck, I loved that back in the day.
It looked fucking great. It played fucking great too. Which gives me a lot of hope because, for a while, the late 2000s, early aughts, or the early teens, 20-teens, everyone that grew up with NES was finally able to make their own games. So we got a lot of 8-bit looking stuff. Then we kind of transitioned to we're getting like 16-bit stuff. As 16-bit, continued on, we started getting like some 32-bit stuff because a lot of stuff looked like Symphony. We're finally getting, 3D games that look like PlayStation 1. And even N64, I mean, there's that Fuamoko N64 game that looks amazing.
There's also stuff like Mouthwashing and Crow Country.
Yeah. So by the time the game crash completes, the dominoes finish falling, I'm really hope we're in a position where all the people that grew up playing PS2 are making games, and we're getting PS2 games again. And I think that was the last true golden age of gaming. I mean, we've had a couple of renaissances since then, but that was the last time where you had just a lot of good games coming out just all the time. Even the bad games were fun, at least. I mean, you had bad games that were just bad, but you also had games that were bad, but they were at least fun to play while they were being bad.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that with all the lessons that has been learned over the last 30, 40 years with Foresight, or I'm sorry, with would it be Foresight or Hindsight? Thank you. Captain Hindsight. We can actually pick up where PS2 left off and actually advance the medium finally. Because photorealistic graphics are really nice, but they do not make a game and are kind of what led to the bloat and the unsustainable AAA model. Whereas games that are a little bit more toonish and stylized stay great looking forever.
Yeah, I think art style is definitely something that's going to be carrying in the future because we've just gotten to a point where photorealism is a lot more easily attainable. But funnily enough, like Borderlands is one of those games that like was more art style forward than anything. But regardless, I think to wrap this particular bit up, like, we're at a point where I really feel like these creators need to start saying to their bosses, like, look, we're being put in an untenable position to where people are going to look at the price tag and they're going to say, they're not at a point where, like, they're wondering, it's like, well, do I do this or do I go get a pizza on the weekend, or like, is this cutting into my rent? And, you know, that's, without answering that particular question, I really feel like old heads like Randy, who have been in the industry for a long time, because keep in mind, this is a guy who cut his teeth, like, on what is arguably the best expansion for Half-Life, and so on and so forth. Like, it's just a sad state of affairs. It really is. And I'm not a Randy Pitchford fan by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, like, we're at this point where there's no good there's no good answer to a question without getting in trouble with your bosses. And it's like, look, man, like, you have to dig yourself out of the situation, or the industry, it's fucked. Period, point blank. All right, we got to move on to the next topic. So, Marathon. We've talked a little bit about this before. I did a video on it over on my YouTube channel discussing exactly what the problems were with Marathon, just in the idea that it was a live service game that was being introduced to a sea of live service games on top of, you know, being a extraction shooter that, you know, you're effectively turning a game series that was ahead of its time in regards to weaving of narrative into the first-person shooter to now something that is just generic as fuck and ultimately has no soul. And the last thing that we covered about Marathon was the good old-fashioned plagiarism will make me God debacle, where they stole art from a artist named Antireal, or at least that's her username on the Twitter. I still have a hard time calling it X. And now a new report came in a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, we didn't cover this last week because we were discussing the Texas bill that was as controversial as it was. And again, thank you again to Hatman for coming in and effectively helping us to kind of get all the information that we needed to do to get you guys the right story. But let me read this report from The Gamer. It says, ever since PlayStation and Bungie held their major gameplay reveal for Marathon back in April, things have seemingly gone downhill at every stop. To start, in the initial hours following the Marathon presentation, Bungie had to respond to concerns about the game's still unreported pricing. Then it was revealed that the game won't have proximity chat, a key feature of extraction shooters. What the fuck? You didn't hear that?
Nope. No proximity chat.
No proximity chat.
How are you going to get these #1 Fortnite Royale? Come on.
That's what really gets me, because Jesus fucking Christ, that can be very useful. Oh man. So because I've watched people play extraction shooters and literally bluff their way, fucking Among Us their way to victory in them. Like, it can get wild. So regardless, if that wasn't enough, Bungie scrapped the closed alpha NDA requirement following mixed responses to the game. And if all that wasn't enough, an artist accused Bungie of plagiarizing her artwork, a claim Bungie confirmed was true. As a result, morale is in free fall, according to a recent report, with employees describing the environment surrounding the live service as actively hostile. Which is a step ahead, because... Mike, how would you describe the look of the head of Marathon development in that live stream that we talked about a couple of weeks ago?
Tired. My bro is just fucking tired.
Yeah.
Tired. And full of a totoso.
I feel like that's an accurate description. That dude looks like he's sleeping under his desk. So, the idea of morale being in a free fall is not surprising. The idea of it being extremely hostile, that's new. So, all that has put Marathon, a game that will reportedly need to be one of the 2025's top 5 best-selling games to be considered a success, Uh,
Mm,
oh no, he's in a bad spot. Because right now there's reports that Doom: The Dark Age is undersold, which I'm largely putting towards its price and the fact that it's available on Games Pass. Because apparently a ton of people downloaded on Games Pass. Over 3 million people were playing it when it came out, but only a third of those apparently were sales. So, like, the fact that you would have to compete, like, if Doom, the arguably the greatest first-person shooter franchise of all time, is struggling with current pricing. You think Marathon, which was never really a big heavy hitter in regards to money, is like, just the delusion is insane to me. Now further reporting has suggested that things have only gotten worse. As reported by the Games Post, paid marketing for Marathon has apparently been canceled altogether. This information this first information was relayed by our ex-IGN editor and current PlayStation podcaster Colin Moriarty, who reported the information via a person familiar with marketing. He said, "I was told by someone familiar with marketing plans in a key overseas market, there are now no plans to do paid marketing for Marathon at all. I don't know I don't know if those plans were affected by what has recently happened or what was always the plan or whatever, but it is considered a fairly unusual move for a game of this high profile." And then, of course, this echoes what Paul Tassi of Forbes reported a week ago, that Bungie had pulled the plug on the main marketing plan for Marathon, which would have reportedly included a trailer next month along with the opening of pre-orders for games. And keep in mind, this game is due out in September. So they've only got, as of today, which we're recording this on the 1st of the month, they've got 3 3/4 months. So, but the game would have to go gold about a month before they were going to start printing discs and shipping them. So, and they haven't even gone to beta. So I think this goes without saying that the numbers don't lie, and they're spelling disaster for Marathon at Sacrifice. Because Jesus Tap Dancing Christ. Like, I don't know if Marathon could be in a worse spot, because the first problem is that they didn't read the writing on the wall. In the sense that, boomer shooters are big. We're reviving, quite literally, the game series that was the foundation for everything we built afterwards. And we're trying a bold new art direction with it, and we're not going to have any PvE elements. Even though that's what the original game was.
I don't know what they were thinking.
I don't either. Like, it was literally written on the wall by God himself. Like, how the fuck can you screw this up? So that immediately is going against them. And just people played the alpha, and it was terrible, apparently. I did not go out of my way to play it, though I could have gotten access to it if I wanted to. Just, benefit of having a 30,000 subscriber channel on YouTube. Thumbs up for me. I'm very proud of that. But regardless, the unfortunate thing about it is just that I personally, I think, except for Serena, have you ever played through the Halo games?
No, it just never really interests me.
Okay,
I'm not into first-person shooters like that.
So this is a me, Mike, and Xavier thing. Like, we've played the shit out of Halo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, that's a very enjoyable series. And just the idea that that they could fumble this so badly, and they completely misunderstood and misread the situation is just so fucking wild to me. I'm still of the opinion, I have no evidence of this whatsoever, I'm of the opinion that what happened was Sony wanted another big live service game. They were willing to pay buku bucks for it. The guys who are the heads of Bungie said, "Oh, well, we can make a lot of money this way, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll do another live service game, even though we already have a live service game that we're still supporting and making expansions for, oh shit, we gotta fire a bunch of people too. It's like these guys got so in over their head. Go ahead,
I have a
Xavier.
theory.
Go for it.
Concord.
That's what did it.
Concord was supposed to be their big live service game, Sony's big live service game, but that failed. Well, why did it fail? There's a myriad of various different reasons. However, why does Sony think it failed? Perhaps Sony, the upper echelons and executives think that maybe Concord failed because it's a brand new IP and a lot of money went into a new IP and it went out guns a-blazing and nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. So, what do we have laying around that's an existing IP that we can, basically do Concord with? And they just, they have that Bungie acquisition, and despite all of the fantastic franchises that Sony has in their vault that they could just bring back and do a hero shooter with, I mean, Christ, they could legitimately just do a Killzone hero shooter. I mean, Killzone had a bunch of good characters, and then you could just create some new Hellgas heroes, and it would be fine. It wouldn't be anything to write home about, but I think it would make money. And Bungie probably wanted to bring back Marathon anyway. However, because they now have owners again, they're in a situation where you can bring back Marathon, but you have to bring it back as this. Or you don't bring it back at all.
It's definitely a possibility.
So they were either given the order to do this, and they just... It's easier to just, slap Marathon on it because we already have Marathon, and we had some preliminary work done, and it burns out like an option. Like, kind of like how some filmmakers, like, I have to make these movies that I don't want to make to guarantee the film deal that's going to let me make the movie I want to make. Even if these movies do bad, the fact that I did them is going to get me that deal I'm looking for. This could also be one of those. They were given instructions to make a hero shooter, and so they...
Or at least a live service shooter.
Or a live service shooter. They slapped Marathon on it because Marathon is still a name people recognize, even if it's not as well known as Halo, because how old Marathon is. It would at least get people talking about it, therefore free press. And it gets Sony off their backs.
Yeah, that's another possibility. Either way, like, because the one thing that got me was when I read the that report by the dude from Forbes. They apparently have been talking about doing this for 5 years, like doing something with Marathon. And I'm just thinking to myself, like,
how did you fuck it?
Yeah, because 2025 is the year that Doom Eternal came out. How can you, like, see that come out and go, yeah, I still want to do the live service thing? So, yeah, like, publisher meddling, I think, could probably have a hand in it somewhere. So, either way, the decision-making has been absolutely piss poor with this game. And the idea that it would need to sell millions upon millions of copies just to even possibly break even... There's no fucking way that you're going to do that with an extraction shooter, especially with, an alpha where it was so poorly received. I remember I was watching Castle Super Beast because, I liked the Super Best Friends back in the day. Wooly and Pat have great chemistry. And what Wooly asks, what he goes, so how was game? Pat goes through all the stages of grief before going, it's fucking terrible. And it's just... I'm of the opinion, honestly, at this point, that Sony needs to pull the plug and just write it off as a loss. Because the fact of the matter is that I don't think they're gonna make their money back on this. I think that they honestly need to have Bungie focusing on just doing whatever they're doing with Destiny, because the studio has been downsized so fucking much. They need to obviously with the plagiarism stuff, they need to rein in their people. They need to get control of the studio again, and they need to get back to, what they're best at, or they're going to end up having to shut their doors, which I don't want for them, because I don't want that for anybody. It's not fun to go through, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where there's no real way to really get around the situation that you're in unless you come back from the criticism you got from the alpha and literally create the greatest extraction shooter to ever be created.
And with the amount of outsourcing, I doubt they will ever be able to create the greatest extraction shooter. Because let's face it, it's already been made. It's made millions of dollars. It features some lady named Sabrina Carpenter, and Miku, and fucking Goku, and Naruto, and what I'm trying to say is Fortnite already exists, okay? Nobody's gonna ever top it, unfortunately. It kind of sucks. It is what it is. You can't get that high. At least as it is. Oh, damn shame.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our final topic of the day. So, apparently there is the possibility that anime studios are going to start integrating artificial intelligence.
Oh, I fucking hate it.
I fucking hate it too. I just fucking... Jesus Christ.
What about the animators? What's gonna happen with them? They'll be out of work.
No, they don't care. They genuinely don't care.
But like, these people literally what made the industry as popular as it is. So you're just gonna forsake them?
Well, no. See, what they're doing is empowering creators, and this was pointed out by a video I watched. I don't know the name of the guy. I'll look it up as I'm talking. But the only reason why they're trying to push this so hard is because they're trying to empower creators, and it turns out the creators are basically the producers, and that's it.
How is this empowering creators?
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense, because one thing that they are saying that they want to do is they want to use AI for translation. At least as part of what Katakawa was talking about, which obviously that is the reason that they are considering this is there have been so many localizers in the United States that have put politics above actually doing their fucking job. And, the Japanese are seeing this and they're like, well, we're trying to make money here, you fucking idiots. So, but the problem that there is that they're coming to the conclusion that, the best option is just to have AI do it. It's like, oh, fuck me. Now, one thing that I will give them at least an inch of credit on is they say here, this is from Natsuno, the head of Katakawa. He says, at this point, we see AI primarily as a support tool because it still can't be truly creative on its own. I actually come from the IT industry, still hold a university position as a professor, so I have a strong understanding of the subject. AI depends on data, large volumes of it, and while this enables the technology to function effectively, it also leads to standardization. That standardization tends to flatten creative expression. AI can reproduce patterns, but it can't generate the kind of originality that defines powerful storytelling. A series like Oshinoko, for example, is too imaginative and unconventional, something AI could never come with on its own. That's why at this moment we use AI mainly to support artists. Although it's still in the testing phase, for instance, it's helpful in tasks like coloring animation cells after the drafts are completed. It enhances efficiency without interfering with the core creative process. Even so, the one thing about this, at least from what I've seen about this in practice, is that you're still at a position where you can use it possibly to help with color, but you're still going to have to edit every frame.
It still requires oversight, which I think that's going to be the point of the translations, is that run it through the machine and then just have a proofreader go over it. So, which, again, even if you had an editor, you'd still have a proofreader go over it.
Yeah, and
the anime that the guy that I watched, his name was Swamp John. Uh, it looked like dog shit. Like every frame was basically had that weird artifacting that every fucking AI video seems to have these days, especially when it comes to anime. And where they had to mask, you could see where they had to like mask it to keep it from like doing that weird jittery shit that every fucking AI animation has to deal with, and it's genuine dog shit looking.
Yeah, there's just some things that a machine is not going to be able to really touch or really understand why some of these things are a problem. And that's the issue that you're going to consistently run into with this. And then we have Toei Animation saying the possibility of doing something similar for storyboard creation, coloring, automatic correction of Genga and in-between frames, and generating backgrounds from photos. Which, that third one is just, it's photo bombing, but it's just going to look... photo bombing does not look good in fucking manga. I'm just going to say this right now. It doesn't look good. Like, that was something I had to kind of get over with Gantz. Because Gantz is good. It's enjoyable, but goddamn, some pages look fucking ugly in that manga. They look fucking atrocious. And it's because of that technique. So you're effectively trying to bring that to anime instead of the cells, like, being a bunch more organic looking. It's a bad idea. It's just going to make everything look nondescript and boring. And it frustrates me so much because I'm not of the opinion that AI couldn't be used in some cases, but at the same time, I'm also of the belief that where they are looking to put it are places where it's actually going to affect the art for the worse. And they're going to start to get lazy because the next thing you know, they're going to start having AI be something that aids soundtracks. I've heard that some anime have actually done that, or a couple of Japanese films did. And then I listened to the soundtrack, it sounded like shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing, man?
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I think trying to use, especially for Genga and storyboarding AI, that's going to cause a lot of problems on its own because we're kind of having problems now just with CG anime and the abundance of CG anime. Back in the old days, when everything had to be hand drawn, there was kind of a less is more approach. Where we had some like minimalization and animation, such tricks such as doing pans across still images, creating camera movement. Tomino loved doing stuff like that, where he'd have like a single still image, and he would just move that camera back and forth across to whoever's talking, and just animate their lip flaps. But you also had, even in their fights, you had less is more, where your impact frames had more impact because we're only animating this small part, because animating an entire body doing all this stuff is outrageously expensive. Now, sometimes seeing that full body, battle is amazing. Like, some of the fights in Demon Slayer are fucking beyond insane, and I love them. And I kind of blame Ufotable with their Fate adaptations for this, by showing that all the things you thought were impossible to do in animation, no, they're totally possible. You just have to, you gotta work at them hard and work them just the right way. But not everybody wants to do that. Kind of like Arxis, how they tween their 3D models to still do all the things that 2D animation does.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not always perfect. When it comes to their fighting game frames, it's great, but their cinematic stuff sometimes that's a little off. I kind of go through that to explain. A couple of years ago, there was a big sequence that came out of Black Clover, and it was supposed to be this is the big fight that put Black Clover on the map, is what they called it. And the sequence came out somewhat unfinished. Like they even released the storyboards of it and showed that a large chunk of the storyboarding was done using 3D models. And the fight is like really, really hard to follow to the extent that what's even happening here. We're even getting that same problem in modern One Piece, where we just had a big fight with Luffy and Kizaru that is so fucking hard to follow. Like, what are we doing? What's happening here? And then you're going to feed that into an AI learning machine and see what comes out.
It's going to look like fucking melted dog shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I apologize. We took a long road to get here, but I had to lay foundations for my argument, so you knew where I was going, so I could say, and you really want to fucking turn it on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Phase
Also,
plasma pulse cannons, indestructible titanium exoskeleton, and you want to fucking turn it on?
God.
Yeah, man. You brought up Ufotable. Real quick thing, just for people out there playing the home game. Go watch The Garden of Sinners. It's incredible. Like if you want some really good Type Moon shit, go watch The Garden of Sinners. But regardless,
those guys did stellar work. Nothing will ever take away from how stellar their work is. I just think that because of the work they did and everybody chasing them, trying to be them, has caused a lot of problems.
Yeah,
because
you shouldn't do that.
Not everybody can be Ufotable. Only Ufotable should be Ufotable.
Yeah,
kind of like how back in the day, Gonzo was the only studio doing CG anime in a big way, or CG backgrounds with 2D characters.
Yeah,
and it looked good, or at least it looked presentable. There should only be one Gonzo.
Same thing with Madhouse. Madhouse is a very unique studio. It's given us some of the greatest anime of all time. And there's certain things that are there that you don't want, to be messed up. And they would be messing them up if they were trying to be anything other than themselves. And it's just one of those things where I really feel like the best thing you can do isn't to try to chase everybody else. The best thing you could try to do is compete with them. Try to do things, unique to yourself. And in doing so, you will stand out. Because, I've been watching through season 1 of Freren, and it feels like it's such a return to form for Madhouse, because they are going back to the style that, made them who they are. This is, of course, the studio that did Trigun. This is the studio that did Black Lagoon, did Gungrave, so on and so forth. So when it comes right down to it, I really feel like just the arts are not going in a good direction right now. This is another part of it. I really feel like AI needs to be left at the door. I can see places where it would be effective in the world of video games. Some things that I've discussed with people I know that work in game dev in ways that could be useful. But ultimately, you can't rely on it for the really complex shit. Things along those lines. So, I don't know, man. The more I hear about this sort of stuff, the more depressed I get. And the more it's like, please just stop. Just stop. Stop it. Ugh. All right, folks.
I'll be real with you. That was the first time I've never ever tried to pronounce Ufotable. I always thought it was UFO table.
I was like that too at one point. Oh, man. So yeah, folks, appreciate all you guys coming by, listening to us yap for an hour and a half. We will be back next week unless something catastrophic happens. But yeah, can people be normal for a week? I'm hoping like next week we'd talk about some like really fun stuff. That would be really cool.
Ming.
So, all right, folks. Xavier, Mike, Serena, any final words?
Nothing comes to mind.
I like trains.
Happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay to not be okay. You can. There's always help. Don't do anything drastic. People care about you.
Yes. Also, I have to say, Farron has sold me on hags.
I feel it.
All right, folks. We appreciate all of you stopping by, listening to us this week. Of course, on whatever platform you're listening to us on, please leave a review if you have not done so already. Or if you're watching the YouTube version, hit the like button for us as well. It definitely helps us out. On that note, we are going to go ahead and take off. So for Xavier, Serena, and Mike, my name is Micah Curtis, the head of Grindstone Arts. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. Week.
Bye-bye.
All of it.
Bye.